on this issue.
Thank you, Danny, and good morning and Shabbat Shalom. I'm very glad to be here, and thanks to the organizers for inviting me to participate in this event, and in particular in this debate. Well, as to my views on the issue, generally speaking, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, first I want to state that the standing point from which I'm viewing this issue is Jewish and Zionist. So which means that no matter, I guess, what we're going to say and the difference that we're going to have between us, Yishai and I, the controversy or the dispute would be within this framework that we are both committed to. Now, probably there would be a problem to what I'm going to say. We are both committed to the very idea of the existence of Israel as Jewish, hyphenation, and then democratic. This is our achievement, the Zionist achievement, that we have been able to create this miracle, combining these two aspects, being a Jewish and democratic state. And we have to figure out, vis-a-vis the lingering conflict, what would be the most effective ways to maintain and to safeguard our state as Jewish and democratic. And therefore, my conclusion, and this is where we probably differ deeply on this issue, that the separation between us and the Palestinian people is a necessary condition for maintaining the character of our state as Jewish and democratic. Therefore, I am for the two-state solution. Now, of course, the moment that we proceed from this, and I guess some of the questions, some of the challenges that I'm going to be faced with, and I might even not be all that successful in meeting them, how on earth are we going to facilitate this solution? Of course, there are many problems, but I'm taking this, if you wish, a sort of a philosophical point of view on this issue. I might not be able to come up with the best answers to when it comes to the operative mechanism or to operative solutions to it. And then would have to be this, what I would say, that, well, we've got to be creative, ingenious, and trying to figure out what would be the best way. How are we going to manage this separation? But for me, it is a quintessential issue here, that if we don't do that, and I'm sort of bringing the challenge to the other side and believing that the other side would not be able to come up with a viable solution, should they want to maintain continuous control of the territories. And here I want to say something in parentheses. I have no dispute. I belong to the peace camp, if you wish to call it that way, left Zionist. I have no dispute with the right wing as to the question of occupation or not occupation. Yes, we have a right over the whole of the land of Israel. This is not the issue as far as I'm concerned. This is not the issue whether we have a right or don't we have a right. There's a difference between Haifa and Hebron? No, there's no difference between Haifa and Hebron. There's a difference between Haifa and whatever, Petah Tikva, and Bethlehem, if you wish. No, there's no difference. Of course, this is a no-win argument to make this distinction about the separation between Haifa and between Hebron. The problem is not there. The problem is that they are Palestinians. So when we're talking to Palestinians, no one can dispute the fact that they are occupied people. The Palestinian people is occupied. Meaning that if you ask the other majority of them, would you like to be under Israeli control? I would say no. Like every other national group, they have this aspiration for having self-determination instead of their own. Am I happy about that? No. Am I for Palestinian state? No, it's not my concern. I'm for a Jewish and democratic state. This is my concern. But of course, I'm also a universalist, and I do recognize. Recognizing the other's right is not like saying that I love the other's right. I recognize national minorities, national groups, to have their own national land. But here are the parameters within which I'm viewing this issue. From the point of view of a Zionist, Jewish, Israeli point of view, I'm for two-state solution because I think this is the only way to guarantee my existence, our existence, as a Jewish and democratic state. This is for the beginning. Perfect. I think perfect.
Thank you. Shalom, everybody. Thank you so much. Shabbat shalom. Excellent to be with you. And I want to say that I feel very lucky that I'm on a panel with Knesset member Yonah because, first thing, he's a person of great accomplishments throughout his life. And moreover, what I like about what he said just now was that, to me, this is the only reasonable argument on the what's called Israeli left. He says, listen, it's our land. I believe it's our land, but maybe for practical reasons, for pragmatic reasons, we don't want to occupy another people. We don't want to have a war with these people. Let's pull out. That's a very, in my opinion, a reasonable discussion to have, as opposed to many people, even on the Israeli left, who just believe that we are somehow stealing somebody else's land, that we're somehow an abusive state, and all these things that you do hear a lot. And I think I was very gratified not to hear those things, but to hear what I think is the reasonable argument, which one can have. However, the thing about the two-state solution is that in the end, it is an impractical solution. And Knesset member Yonah actually hinted to that by saying to you, I don't have any real way to describe to you how to actually do it, because what he didn't say is, it's actually failed recurrently over and over and over again. The formula of land for peace is problematic at its very core for security reasons, for historical reasons, for legal reasons, for religious reasons, and mostly because the two-state solution is actually anti-Middle Eastern in its atmosphere, in its milieu. And I'll explain in a second, okay? My friend, Professor Eugene Kantorovich, says in the 56 various land conflicts in the Middle East, only one side thinks that if we give away a little bit more, there'll be peace with the other side. There's only one side that says, if we just give a little more, then they'll actually calm down. Why is it that one side thinks that way? Because that side is Jewish and has sometimes a Western concept of compromise, which is simply not true in the Middle East. Let me give you a little bit more of a practical example. I speak with Arabs all the time. And I've developed a way to speak to them that I think works with them. And I oftentimes say to them, I say, Allah loves you. He loves you. He's given you 22 countries, tremendous landmass, all the way from West Africa to the Persian Gulf. It's Muslim lands. He loves you, Allah loves you, and He's giving you oil coming out of the ground. However, I say to them, Allah has given this small land to the Jewish people. How do I know? First thing, there are 4 verses in the Quran that say that the land of Israel belongs to the Jews. And I remind them of these verses. And then I say to them, but more importantly, how do you think we beat you? How did we beat you all these years? Are we smarter than you? Are we better than you? Are we bigger than you? Are we richer than you? By the way, there are 350 million Arabs in the Middle East and 6 million Jews. How is it that we've defeated you? I say to them, only because of Allah. Allah has given us this land. And every time they go like this, they go, this happened to me many times. They go, there's a moment there. And I say, you have to be a good Muslim. Submit to the will of Allah. You listen to what the Quran says and look with your eyes what Allah actually wants. So they go like this, and they think, and then they say, yeah, but you have left the Sinai. You have left Gaza. You have left South Lebanon. We're in control of your holy places on the Temple Mount, the tomb of Joseph. You are shrinking, Israel, and we have patience, and you'll shrink away. We already see you shrinking in our time. Yeah, you had nice victories, but you're going away. And you will go away. And do you think that they care for 1 second whether it comes through conquest of war or because Knesset members come up with an idea of how to give them the land? They like the second one even better. This is great. Just get the land through diplomacy. Fabulous. And they think they're on the great road to victory. They are patient and they think they're on the great road to victory. Knesset member Yonah said that he wants Israel to be Jewish and democratic. He put Jewish and democratic on the same pedestal. Jewish and democratic. I like democracy very much, but I don't think that it's an equal value to the first value of what the Jewish state is. The Jewish state is 6.5 million Jews within 350 million Arabs. We are post 2,000 years of persecution, post-Holocaust. The state of Israel is there to defend the ethnic minority of the Jewish people in the Middle East. That is its goal. The democratic aspect is a nice addition, but nobody coming out of the Holocaust said to themselves, I would like there to be an Arab democracy in the Middle East. That was not the goal of the Jewish state. The goal of the Jewish state is to defend our people, and therefore, to take steps that endanger our people for the sake of a value like democracy is a mistake. Moreover, it doesn't actually work, and it has been tested. The problem that Professor and Knesset member Yonah didn't tell you is that Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, is actually the strategic high ground. It surrounds Jerusalem on 3 sides. You can't give it away. It's our historic homeland, and by giving it away, it actually undermines our whole narrative, because our narrative is based on Jewish history. The reason that we have Zionism in this place is because Jewish history happened. And for various reasons, and especially the most important reason of them all, which is the Gaza pullout. The Gaza pullout was a test of the land for peace, and it killed it. And even Knesset member Yonah will tell you that the Israeli electorate is moving away because they see that it's a recurring failure. Now it's time to think about alternatives.
Bravo.
So we agreed before we go to questions that they would be able to respond to one another. So, member Knesset Yonah?
Okay, well, first as to the last statement that you made, Yishai, you might find it surprising that I objected to the withdrawal from Gaza Strip. I objected to it because at the time when Ariel Sharon was planning on that initiative, we, not all of us, but as a minority within the left, saying that, well, look, if we withdraw from the Gaza Strip without an agreement, it would fail. We on the left said that, and we objected to it. Not all of us, because we knew that it is not a peace agreement. We knew that it would not be a solution. We knew that if you put the Gaza Strip's population within this strip, small place surrounded by us and by the Egyptians, and hoping that they would not continue the aspiration for a Palestinian state, it would fail, and it failed. Now, I'm not saying that they could not have done better with what they have gotten. I'm not saying that. But that was not a withdrawal. That was not a peace initiative on part of our country. You should know that. So to come later on and to say, well, look, we gave them this piece of land and look what they have done with it. Still, I'm saying that they should have done better with what we have got, what they have gotten. But we didn't think it's a good idea. We didn't think it would be a good idea that we withdraw them without having an agreement with the Palestinian authorities. And this split between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, of course, did not work out. So this has to this argument. Now, what I would like to say, Yishai, to your arguments, the arguments sort of have this sense of metaphysical kind of aura. The Arabs, what they want, what we want. It is some kind of abstraction that is separated from reality. Reality is more complicated. Reality is negotiations. People change views and positions vis-a-vis the context in which they live. And we Israelis have responsibility also for forming and framing reality that it would be conducive to what we want to achieve, which is peace with the Arab countries. So this is first, the point that you made about 22 Arab countries, really, this is a slogan, Yishai, this is a slogan, because, again, this is a mystification and abstraction of the Arab world. Well, we have these Arabs. No, there isn't such a thing as Arabs. There isn't. There are Iraqis, there are Egyptians, and you go and talk to Egyptians and tell them that they are Arabs, they would object to it. They say, no, we are Pharaonia. We have a very old history. Got nothing to do with Lebanon and with this or that. And they come to Palestine and say, well, look, you're part of the Arab nation. This Arab nation is an abstraction that there's no anchor and reality. Last point that I want to make, look, the peace and negotiations as it went, indeed did not succeed. I was one of the signatories on the Geneva Initiative. And it was a bilateral kind of option or initiative. Now we're moving ahead. All I'm saying to Yishai, all I'm saying to the people of Israel, to the leaders of Israel, look, there is an initiative put by Saudi Arabia saying that, well, guys, a Palestinian state having a commercial and peace treaty with all Arab nations. Now, there might be some problems with the initiative. And I'm saying to my Prime Minister, please, just examine it. Just go and say, okay, we are willing to examine it. And there is full objection to that. There is no discussion in Israel. If you go to the street, I would not be surprised if I ask you, do you know anything about the Arab Initiative? Most of you might say, well, we don't know anything about it. But you know what? If you go to the Israeli street and ask the Israelis, do you know anything about the Arab Initiative 2003? They'll say, what the hell are you talking about? Why is this denial? Why is our leadership is not willing to go and to negotiate with the Arab state at large and say, well, look, you would be also the guarantors. We have the United States, we have Russia, we have the superpowers, other superpowers, and we have the Sunni moderate states that would be privy to that. Why not try it out? You know what? It might not succeed. Why not give it a chance? Why not give it a chance? But just coming with these kind of metaphysical things about what the Arabs of the Quran and what he said and what she said and what Allah said. Hey, I speak Arabic. I'm fluent in Arabic. I was to Abu Mazen's office few times. He's a tough negotiator. Now, if he says, well, look, guys, I insist on the right of return, I say, no way. But it's negotiable. Let us talk. Let us talk. This is what I'm saying. There is an initiative, it is there. Let us try it out. If it fails, well, we might be able to go back to your line, to front line, to this sort of Siruvnik line, dissidenting line, and say, no, but let us try it out.
I find it, you kind of made fun of my quote-unquote metaphysical Arab world, and then the next minute you said, but the Arab Initiative is going to bring all the Arabs into peace with Israel. It's a little strange business. I'm not sure I understand that. Moreover, the reason that people on the Israeli street don't know what you're talking about is because they're darn tired of losing. And we're tired of losing. The general attitude of land for peace is a mistaken attitude in the Middle East. When you offer in the Middle East land for peace, let me give you an example, okay? Let me borrow your watch for a second, right? This watch was given to me by my great-grandfather, and it was given to him by his great-grandfather. And this is a very dear thing to me. I'm going to give it to you for peace. Will you take it for peace? Now, in the West, that sounds like a very beautiful thing. It sounds like compromise. But in the Middle East, what it sounds like is, I'm willing to give something that's dear to me because I'm afraid of you. I'm willing to sacrifice what's dear to me, and I am going to say to you, take my wife, just don't hurt me. Yes, that's what it sounds like in the Middle East. In the Arab ears, in the Middle East, when you talk about compromise, instead of saying, you want to compromise on Jerusalem? Never! Never! When you say never to Arabs, they go, oh, you're one of us, a Middle Easterner. They respect you for talking that way. They don't think, oh, he doesn't want to compromise. They think, okay, he's just like us. I'm an Arab in that sense. I always tell them, I'm just like you. I'm willing to hold out to what's mine. I'm willing to be strong. And they respect that. And the fact that you want to bring us eternally into yet another endless cycle of trying to give away land. By the way, your story about Gaza not being a negotiated peace, but what was Oslo? Not negotiated? Yes, it was. And it turned out to be a horrible, horrible bloodletting of Jewish people. We had to fight a war to get back to our land. It doesn't make sense to give away a tiny land to people who are given to something, and this is what you deny also. There is something that today unites in the Arab world, unites them all. Not all of them, but many of them. The jihad. There is a no, there's no jihad. No, there's no jihad.
Unite them all?
Not all of them, but there is an atmosphere of jihad in the Middle East. If you deny that, you stand in front of an audience which reads the newspaper, we know what's going on.
The jihad was just lost in Iraq.
The jihad was lost in Iraq.
Yes.
The Iranian jihad just destroyed the other jihad and is now bringing the jihad to our borders. This is exactly what I'm talking about. We're living in and the right is constantly being accused. This is the famous line. The left says to the right, you're messianic, you're not pragmatic. We on the right say to the left today, you're messianic, and you're not pragmatic. You seem to refuse to see that your formula has not worked after being tested. Now, let's two-state solution is a failure, has been a failure. I wrote in the New York Times an article called basically about 5 alternatives to a two-state solution. 5 alternatives to a two-state solution are serious. They all have an element that is problematic. Every single one of them has a problematic element. But these alternatives are better than the de facto problematic situation that we have today, where we have, he's proud of negotiating with Abu Mazen, who is an avowed anti-Israel jihadist. If you want to know if Abu Mazen is an anti-Israel jihadist, look at the logo of his organization. It calls for all of Israel to be Palestine. It's that simple. It's that simple. And this is not metaphysics. It's just looking at the Facebook page. Okay? Understand what they want. Now, today we have many alternative Arabs who don't want the Palestinian Authority. They want to live under Israeli residency. They prefer the best country in the Middle East to rule and control there, and to have residency, maybe a pathway to citizenship for those people who prove loyalty. There are alternatives to hold on to the land, hold on to what's ours, hold on to what will give us defense, give decency and rights. We're the only country that has any ability to give decency and rights in the future. And your formula, this formula has failed. Now isn't it he offered you, he said, let's just try it. How about we try it the other way? How about we try it the other way? Let's actually hold on to our land, push back on bad guys, and let the good guys thrive, including decent Arabs in our country.
So at this point we have 30 minutes, so I'm going to suspend the questions I was going to ask because I know there's questions out there. And let me say this, that you can direct to both or either, but we'll give the chance to both to respond. So in the far back, and then coming to the second row here, and then in this row.
Two questions for Yishai. They're interrelated. In fact, you just talked about jihad. I'm very surprised here to see this applause for basically someone who's promoting a religious ideology in a world where we know that religion and politics is poison, toxic, is exactly what contributes to jihad. The very jihad that you oppose is the jihad that you embrace. Because you talk in terms of God's promise. Politics has nothing to do with God's promise. You can't live in the world and do politics and imagine that God's word is what dictates to you. In a world that we live in, God's promise is motivating to us because we believe in God, and to Muslims because they believe in God. But in terms of politics, you work with compromise. That's question number one. So you're introducing religion as a factor to determine politics. That's exactly what the Muslims have done and have fought with us, and we're now engaging with them in the same war that's endless. Endless. There's no end. Number one. Number two.
So if you could, number two could be a bit brief.
The second question is that we have a people here that's left the Soviet Union and Russia because Russia is not a place that allows for democracy. And they've come to a democracy. And they applaud someone who tells you that Judaism should have supremacy over democracy, when the foundation document of the State of Israel and its constitutional, we have now an amendment to the non-constitution, but we have an amendment to basic law, which says that Israel is Jewish and democratic. And the justification for the State of Israel, that it's Jewish and democratic. How can you deny the very justification of the State of Israel? You're undermining the justification.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to ask both Yishai and, if you wish, Yossi are welcome to respond. Let's keep the responses brief, and then from here we're going to keep the questions equally brief. Thank you.
I couldn't have asked for a more excellent question for what I want to say to you today. Really, I appreciate it, and it comes from passion. I appreciate the heart behind it, and I have some very important answers here. First thing, just right off the bat, to equate Judaism and the jihad is just not an equation that's a fair equation. Just look at it. Why? Because we have a completely different history. We have never been a jihad you equated religions, and then you said, but our religions are different. We don't call to destroy and capture the world. Okay, that's number one. This is just a simple difference. It's just to equate us just on a kind of it's so superficial to say, oh, you're religious, you're a jihad, you're a jihad. It's completely silly. But on the other hand, much deeper is actually you said something about the Russian Jews in this room. I happen to be a Russian Jew. My parents are Russian Jews. I speak Russian. I speak Russian at home with my mom. And I want to tell you something. My ideology, you never even heard me say anything about religion in my whole talk, but you out there said, my ideology comes from something very simple. I'm actually a Russian Jew. I can take off this kippah, and I can say to you the exact same thing. Это наша земля, it's our land. And those guys are trying to take it, push it back. It's not religion, it's an ethnic understanding. We're an ethnic peoplehood. Somebody's trying to destroy us, we push it back. You don't need God. If you think you need God to explain it to you, you're missing the very basic foundation, which is derech eretz kadma Torah, like simple logic comes before Torah. It's a simple logic, it's our land, somebody's trying to take it away. With regarding to Jewish and democratic, and that, by the way, Russian Jews, that's why Russian Jews in Israel also vote on the right. Because of a simple ethnic understanding, that's it. It's our land, somebody's trying to take it away, we won't let them. Number two, with regarding to Jewish and democratic, I didn't say that I don't like democracy, I just said it's not the ultimate value. First and foremost, defend our peoplehood. And if somebody's trying to use my democracy to sneak in and to destroy my country, I won't let him. In every society, including here in America, when a society is threatened, democratic privileges are sometimes limited or suspended. For example, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus during the Civil War. For example, the Patriot Act here during the terror period. The bottom line is that oftentimes when you're threatened, somebody wants to use your democracy against you, you limit it. Here's my sign. Sir, you got to look at me for a second. This is my sign. Do you see the sign? It's a yield sign. I say democracy yields when it comes into conflict with a Jewish state. Not Judaism, by the way. Jewish people. That's a different. I said Jewish, ethnic Jewish. Not just the religion. The Jewish people come first. And then that democracy yields to that. If there's a conflict between a law that will hurt the Jewish people but will be more democratic, yes, democracy has to yield to a Jewish state, a small Jewish state, defending its ethnic minority in our region. Thank you.
Woo!
Two comments. First, as you were doing before, I would point to the contradictions in your position. And remember that what you're saying, well, they would love to live under Israeli rule. Why? Because we are protector of human rights, we democracy, we so forth and so on. So here you're using this ploy as democracy, where suddenly you attribute to it a lot of importance when you use it as a ploy in our debate. So you want to keep the democratic character of Israel, or you don't want to do it. So when it suits you, you say, well, of course, this is the attraction of Israel and the Middle East being such unique and democratic in the middle of the Middle East. Another point that I want to make, really, Yishai, the moment someone comes and says, I understand the other, and not understanding the other. Because to understand the other is to understand complexity. Every human group is very complicated. Inner contradictions, differences, different views, different positions. And you come here and you talk to the people and say, well, look, I tell you what the Arabs think, how they understand. This is like very condescending way of talking about any nation. Like talking about the Jews, talking about the Russian Jews, talking about the Israelis. It's like, I tell you how they believe, how do they do it. I don't know. I've been in my parents from the Arab world, from Iraq, and they were living in Iraq through turbulent times. Sometimes they were coexisting, sometimes there was a lot of mutual respect. Arabs protected my parents during the Farhud, but at the same time, in Baghdad, the Jews were slaughtered. We know that. It is complicated. It is not either this or that. And now talking about the jihad. First, jihad, in its terminology, etymology, it means to make an effort. And many times it doesn't have any religious connotation. I speak Arabic, and I've been there, and I have written a novel that is, part of it was placed in the West Bank. And I was there with families, with people, talking to them, days, overnights, in Palestine, and the occupied land. So, and I cannot tell you that I understand Arabs, because there's no such a thing as Arab. And for instance, you know, the Sunni in Iraq, or the regime, actually the Shiite today, with the Sunni tribes, have liquidated ISIS in Iraq. So the ISIS were the jihadists. And why did the jihadists come up into the world? Because it was a reaction to American intervention there in Iraq. The Sunni who were moderate now became extremists. This is unbelievable. The Sunni throughout the years, of course, the Sunni throughout the years in Iraq, they were the moderate religious. After the occupation of Iraq, they became radical Muslims. So suddenly they are radicals. But you change the reality, they might be moderate. So all I'm saying is that all you've got to do is to look at reality as a complicated thing, and no abstractions. Don't generalize. Don't abstract, and don't say these are the Arabs and there would be the position about this or that. Just go and talk. Human beings are human beings. We all human beings with differences, and we've got to negotiate with human beings.
I'd like to talk about solutions, not just declarations, but what are the options?
It's a baby crying.
So first of all, the problem is 1.7 million Arabs living in Judea and Samaria, and that's a essence of the issue. So one of the solutions that was proposed a while ago and has been mentioned recently by Smotrich is that many of the Arabs emigrate from Judea and Samaria, approximately 20,000 a year, and much more of them want to immigrate, about 30%, depending on the polls, and there are many different polls.
Speak
In
louder,
Gaza, it's
please.
even more. So if Israel would help people, Arabs from Judea and Samaria that want to leave, to find, to arrange the visas, which is not trivial, and find a job, they would be happy to leave. And it also works financially because of the difference in real estate prices in Jewish and Arab spectrum. So the question is, how do you relate to this idea? What is your take? It was proposed several times. What is your take on this approach?
Okay. Why don't you go ahead first?
Yeah, well,
No, I'll let him go first, then we'll do.
First thing, I want to comment, a tiny comment on something that Knesset member Yonah said before, which is he said, you know, people can be Arabs or anybody can be turned from jihadist or non-jihadist. I actually agree with it. When you suppress the jihad, there's less of it. Push back on it, there'll be less of it. Destroy the jihad and let decent Arabs, tolerant Arabs rise up. Right now, my Arab neighbors in Hevron, in East Jerusalem, in Gush Etzion, they are totally afraid of the Palestinian Authority. I just recently had an Arab who was a pro-peace Israel Arab, living in Hevron, was taken by the Palestinian Authority, tortured for 40 days in Jericho. I called the American ambassador. I called the head of Kogat. I called everybody to try to get him out of Palestinian Authority prison. I couldn't do it. Nobody could help me because he was under this 23rd dictatorship in our region, and he was being suppressed exactly because he was a decent Arab. Now, what message is that sending to my Arab neighbors? Don't speak up. Okay? I say, I agree with you. Crush the jihad. The jihad. Let decent Arabs rise up. I agree with you. There's young, we had a 17-year-old Arab who came into a house in Kiryat Arba and murdered a young 13-year-old girl, stabbing her viciously. I said to the press, on the one hand, he's a devil, he's a murderer, he's a criminal, he's going to hell, but on the other hand, he's a victim. 17 years of being taught to hate and kill Jews. And that's the Palestinian Authority that you proudly negotiate. My point is, I agree with you. You can suppress the jihad and decent people will rise up. With regarding to your question, sir, One of the 5 options that I wrote about, Smotrich has now bought into it. It's originally a Feiglin plan, and before that it was other plans. Basically, that's called assisted immigration. Assisted immigration means it's a non-violent, non-coercive assistance to those Arabs who want a decent life somewhere else. Okay, it could be in the Arab world, it could be in Europe, it could be in America, and basically we would set up a kind of nefesh b'nefesh going the other way, okay? We would help an Aliyah organization to help people leave. Basically, that basic idea says that the Palestinian national claims cannot coexist with Zionist claims, and therefore help Arabs move out. Okay, I think many Israelis support that. I think we should do that in any case. We need to say that would ease tensions. But I think at the end of the day, it's not going to fix the whole problem. At the end of the day, what we have to do is I think, what has been done in East Jerusalem. You give Arabs, no matter how many millions there are, you give them residency. You say to them, you're residents of this country. You are bound by the laws of this country. You're residents. And you can have maybe a pathway to citizenship if you prove loyalty. Okay? And you will be under, we actually, here's something that they never say about the right wing. The right wing says, take responsibility for the Arabs. They're now under our country. Just like we do in East Jerusalem, we should do even a better job of taking responsibility for them, making sure that they have good education, good roads, good, a decent life. We'll be responsible for them, but we will root out the jihad if it ever raises its head. In the mosques or in the Facebook or in the schools, we will destroy it. Let decent people have a decent life, residency, right? Because it is a Jewish state. If somebody says, I swear allegiance to a Jewish state, maybe they can have a pathway to citizenship, go to the army, follow our laws, have a decent life. This will give us an instant solution, okay? Take Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, annex it, give everybody their residency. If they really want to, they can have a pathway to citizenship, but most Arabs will be very happy to take a residency. Those who want a Palestinian state are basically seditious to the Jewish state. They want a different sovereign in our land. We can't allow that, okay? Thank you.
Well, it seems that we agree on half of the things that we said here. In what way? And I'm looking at you, former immigrant from the Soviet Union. Who would leave his homeland? Just, how many people just leave? Say, well, I don't like this place, and I go somewhere else.
All of us.
Wait a minute. It is not a natural phenomenon. People, when the conditions of life and when there is prosperity, when there is cultural prosperity, they stay. People don't leave. People live under duress, either political persecution, as you have experienced, or economic persecution or economic bad conditions. This is the reality of the immigration from the former Soviet Union. And I have studied it extensively and written many articles on that issue. People don't just...
No.
Let him speak. Please.
Of course. Of course.
Nick, please. Would you please let him speak? Nick, excuse me.
Okay.
Excuse me.
I can, if you want, I can extend, believe me, I've done a lot of that. All the Jews who left every country in the world, okay, even the Great Aliyah of the end of the 19th century, when they had an opportunity to leave, 97% of the Jews left Eastern Europe, went to America, Germany, Australia, and not to Palestine. 3% came to Palestine. The same vis-a-vis the Russian immigrations until 1989. 87% of the Jews who left the former Soviet Union didn't come to Israel. It is a fact. So what I'm saying is that people don't just leave. It is not a kind of, how about if we leave? Everything is fine, but we won't leave. No, people don't leave. What I mean by that, to come here to talk about the Palestinians as our friend here is suggesting, of course it is some kind of forced transfer, indirect transfer of the Arabs. Make the situation so bad that they would want to leave. So I'm glad, at least on this issue, Yishai and I agree. Yishai is not using this method or is not endorsing this solution because people don't usually leave. You don't leave home, especially, and just think about what Yishai was saying about Arab jihad, about their conviction, about their a deeper, if you wish, embracement of their own lands.
the idea of sumud, probably Yishai, you know about this word, which means attachment to the place. So people don't live. So my friend, what you're saying is this suggestion, which is in the air, is there some kind of beautifying transferist ideology, and therefore I'm objecting to it, and I'm glad to hear that Yishai as well is objecting to it, but suggesting that there would be a way that we would be able to incorporate Palestinian citizens or the Palestinian population within this greater Israel. But this greater Israel, incorporating Palestine within it, it would be a nightmarish for us, for the Jews. It would be bloody. It would cost a lot of victims. It would cost a lot of future wars. And I'm definitely warning against these, what I see as some kind of a nightmare for the Jewish people. For the Jewish people, and I'm talking again, for the Jewish people, it would be a nightmare for us. And this is why I'm objecting to it.
So we are in our last 10 minutes. I have the next question promised here. We'll see how, if we can keep it short and the answer short, we'll get some more. So please.
This is a question for Yishai. You talked about the importance of Israel being Jewish, first and foremost. How do you ensure that with a one-state solution, there's a Jewish majority?
Okay, so first she asked about Jewish majority, you know, the recurring theme of what has been called now demographobia, that we're going to be somehow overrun by them. By the way, when I was born, 1976, there was 3 million Jews in Israel. Today there are 6.5 million Jews. And nobody expected that. The demographic trends are always in our favor, surprisingly. Right? And a lot of demographers say that the Palestinian numbers are double counted. This gentleman counted the alternative figures of less Arabs in Judea and Samaria and the West Bank and Israel. The bottom line is, as I said with residency, I'm not so concerned about how many there are. It's a Jewish state by its hagdara. What do we have to call it? Definition. By its definition. It is a Jewish state, and whatever minorities live there, they live there. But they have to accept the fact that they are guests in our country. Now, I just said something which the left could never say. I can say to an Arab with no hate, with total respect of the fact that we're both Semites, that we're both Middle Easterners, that we're both children of Abraham, I could say, this is my land, and you're a guest here. Will you accept that? Now, the left could not say this phrase to anybody, but I can say it proudly. It's our land, and you are welcome to live here if you play by our rules. By the way, many parties today in Europe are taking that position also vis-a-vis Muslim immigration. They're very concerned. They're saying, look, it's Hungary, it's the Czech Republic, it's Poland, and if you're going to come in here, you have to accept our rules. If you don't, then don't come in here. And that's what we're saying as well. I want to say something that I don't want it to be misunderstood. Exchange of populations was at one time a completely reasonable option. In general in the world. India, Pakistan, Greece and Turkey. I don't think it's completely off the table. I just don't think today it's practical. And I think that there are many Arabs that would be willing to be decent residents and citizens of the state of Israel if we crush the jihad. But I don't want to rule it out. I don't want it to make it sound like I rule it out. I think there could be a situation where you look at it and you say, this is an intractable conflict where these people have an alternative national interest, which is conflicting with us. But, ladies and gentlemen, we, and some people at this table, have been the people who have given them the idea that we will legitimize that national claim. If they had no legitimacy to that national claim, if we said to them, never will you have a state in our land, they would accept. And this is what Jabotinsky, our great teacher, wrote, a great teacher, and I call him my rabbi, a great teacher and rabbi wrote, that we have to send in a message of an iron wall. You will never take this land. You will never defeat us. And if you try to, we will be yet stronger. We'll take more. And that sends a message which makes a lot of sense. Again, though, this will, in the end, ensure decency of life for those people who choose to be residents in a Jewish state. They will actually live in our country, understand the rules, and have upward mobility in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really don't see how this approach would serve the interests of Israel. Really.
Speak up,
and
please.
I'm talking out of anxiety, out of not fear, because we have established ourselves as a regional empire. We are very strong. I'm proud of my country. I'm proud of the strength of my country. I fought in a war. I was in a tank corps during the '73 war.
and I was hit 4 times by Russian tanks. By T-62, I still remember, many years ago. So I was in a war. And I'm afraid of war, but I would not hesitate to enter a war if it is necessary. But I urge all of us to do everything possible that we would avoid wars. We should not, we are not hesitant. When we are challenged, we fight, and we know how to fight. And we pay heavy prices. We don't want to do that. And I urge you, and I'm urging the State of Israel, our leadership, to do everything. And the way I see leadership, when a prime minister wakes up in the morning, should not be occupied by this kind of thoughts of Arab mentality, how Arab think, that we should be this or that against them because they don't understand any other language, the Iron Wall, things like that. Now, please, Prime Minister, you've got responsibility for your citizens, for mothers, for children, for old people. Please, Prime Minister, when you wake up every morning, just think about what would be the best way. Things that you have not experienced, we have not attempted yet in order to bring out peace. Go and try out. This is the challenge for leadership. Go and try out the ways, venues that have not been examined so far. And yes, to occupy or to stay in the old land of Israel, as my friend Yishai, with his good intention, his care about the Jewish people and about the future of the Jewish people, would bring us catastrophe. It is a nightmarish vision for the State of Israel and for the citizens of Israel. We should avoid it at all costs. There are possible solutions on the table, and we should examine them. We should at least examine them, and not have this refusenic approach towards every peace initiative that there is in the area.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you. So
repeat
here's where we are.
yourself.
Here's where we are. We have 5 minutes. I'm committed to ending on time. There's one more question right here. And if you ask a brief question, your response will be both an answer as well as a summation. So please.
Hi, I work with Moish House, Jewish young adults. And something that we always see with young adults all around the world is that they have different opinions than their parents. What is one takeaway that you would give to the young population about this, and what should they do with it?
Perfect summation question. So I will ask. The hand of God. Okay. You know what? I'll give you last word because you got first word. Go.
First thing, I want to say that Professor Knesset Member Yonah is telling us it's a nightmare solution. Nightmare solution to what? To be strong? To hold on to our land? To suppress the jihad? What if I said that sounds like a nightmare to you? Here's a nightmare. We pull out. We surrender. We get weaker. We walk away. They put in rockets. And every place that we've gone out exactly has become the cancer, the front of the jihad. Exactly every place that we've left. Gaza, South Lebanon, now Sinai. What's the nightmare that you're offering us what? More weakness, and you're saying that what I'm saying is a nightmare. It makes no sense to me. It's a nightmare is to be weak in the Middle East. It's a nightmare to walk away from places and have them destroy Jewish life and then instead replace it with the jihad. That is a nightmare, and it's a proven nightmare. You're theorizing about my nightmare. You've already proven that that solution has ended up in a nightmare. That's number one. Number two, very quickly, I have to say it's very important. We are in an existential war. Today, the enemies of Israel have come to understand that the war against us is no longer in the battlefield because they haven't defeated us. It's in legitimacy. Today, we have a war for the good name of Israel. They are telling us, they are using the same words, occupation. They're telling us that we're stealing somebody else's land. By telling them that indeed we should walk out of this land, we have legitimized that anti-Israel narrative that says that we're not from Hevron. I just fought UNESCO. I went to Krakow. And at the end of this battle against UNESCO, which was saying that the tombs of our fathers and mothers is actually a Palestinian heritage site. A 2,000-year-old building built by a Jewish king is a Palestinian heritage site. That is the war that we're fighting today, and we have legitimized it by saying that we're willing to walk away from the tombs of our fathers and mothers. And that is the fight that we're in today. And the answer is to say, we are here, we're back, and we're going to stay here forever. Yes, to answer your question, Madam, I want to say to you that I come from Russian Jews. My parents were Zionist, but they left Israel. They came here to America. They became more Jewish here in America, more religious, more connected to tradition. I went back to Israel, and today I'm a Zionist of the next generation. And I think that my message is exactly in these parentheses. It's so small, it's so simple, and I want everybody to remember this line if you remember anything else. And here is where Professor Yonah and I will totally agree, I'm sure. The state of Israel is the most exciting project of the Jewish people in the last 2,000 years. That's what we all have to do and get together behind and build no matter where we are. Thank you very much.
Suppose we go on a journey. We go on a journey. We met, say, half of the way. Suppose half the way it has been met. We're all together. Now come Yishai and says, well, how about if we continue on? And I say, respect me, I don't want to go with you. About 70% of the Israeli population supporting the two-state solution.
That is not
70.
It's not true.
70%.
It's not true.
And I tell you the truth now, guys. I am talking and speaking an intimate circumstances with members of the Likud party. And they say, Yossi, this is the only solution, but we have no choice because the right wing in our party is threatening us in the primaries. And I swear to God, and I talk about most, and I swear to God to you here, that most of the members of the Likud party, know that this is the solution, and they are frightened because of the primaries. Because they are frightened of the primaries, and they say, well, look, we know this is the solution, but we have, because we are hijacked by the extreme right wing in our party, and anybody who's going to say against two-state solution might lose the primaries. This is the truth. Now, and I'm asking you, and a message to young generation, please be involved. Come to Israel. Listen to all sides of the spectrum of the political reality in Israel. Please come, be partner. And the things that we have said, and we are saying when we met with leaders of the Jewish community in LA, and this is what I want to tell you, despite the differences that we have here, this is the thing that I want to tell you. I don't see you as being partners of us. I see you as an organic whole. You and us and Israel is one body. It is one body. This is the way I see it. But I want you to be involved. Because we're responsible for you, you're responsible for us. Yes, the young generation, please come to Israel. Come and learn. Be involved. Be critical. Learn more and more. And suspend, please. You know what? Even those of you who agree with what the positions that I have presenting before you, suspend your agreement. All of you, please suspend your positions. Come, learn, and make your judgment. This is all I'm asking you. And thank you very much for this wonderful, beautiful occasion.